Psycho is a 1960 American psychological horror film, directed and produced by Alfred Hitchcock and written by Joseph Stefano. It stars Anthony Perkins, Janet Leigh, John Gavin, Vera Miles, and Martin Balsam, and it was based on the 1959 novel of the same name by Robert Bloch. The film centers on an encounter between a secretary, Marion Crane Lee, who ends up at a secluded motel after stealing money from her employer, and the motel's owner-manager, Norman Bates, played by Anthony Perkins, and its aftermath.
Very interesting. Psycho is seen as a departure from Hitchcock's previous film, North by Northwest. Having been filmed on a low budget, in black and white, and by a television crew, the films initially received mixed reviews, and outstanding box office returns prompted reconsideration, which led to overwhelming critical acclaim and 4 Academy Award nominations, including Best Supporting Actress for Leigh and Best Director for Hitchcock. Psycho is now considered one of Hitchcock's best films and praised as a major work of cinematic art by international film critics and scholars. Often ranked amongst the greatest films of all time, it set a new level of acceptability for violence, deviant behavior, and sexuality in American films, and is widely considered to be the earliest example of slasher film genre.
Well. Sir Alfred Joseph Hitchcock was an English film director and producer, widely regarded as one of the most influential filmmakers in the history of cinema. Known as the master of suspense, he directed 50 feature films in a career spanning 6 decades, becoming well known as any his actors thanks to his many interviews. His cameo roles in most of his films and his housing of Alfred Hitchcock presents.
Indeed. Born on the outskirts of London, Hitchcock entered the film industry in 1919 as a title card designer after training as a technical clerk and copywriter for the Telegraph Cable Company. He made his directorial debut with The Pleasure Garden in 1925. His first successful film, The Lodger, A Story of London Fog, in 1927, helped to shape the thriller genre, while his 1929 film, Blackmail, was the first British talkie. 2 of his 1930s thrillers, The 39 Steps, made in 1935, and The Lady Vanishes in 1938, are ranked among the greatest British films of the 20th century. Imagine that.
Well, by 1939, Hitchcock was a filmmaker of international importance, and film producer David O. Selznick persuaded him to move to Hollywood. A string of successful films followed, including Rebecca, Foreign Correspondent, Shadow of a Doubt, The Paradigm Case. Rebecca was nominated for 11 Oscars and won the Academy Award for Best Picture. His 53 films have grossed over lots of US $1 million, oh man, worldwide, and gathered a total of 46 Oscar nominations and 6 wins.
The Hitchcockian style includes the use of camera movement to mimic a person's gaze, thereby turning viewers into voyeurs and framing shots to maximize anxiety and fear. The film critic Robin Wood wrote that the meaning of a Hitchcock film is there in the method and the progression of shot to shot. A Hitchcock film is an organism with the whole implied in every detail and every detail related to the whole. By 1960, Hitchcock had directed 4 films, often ranked amongst the greatest of all time, mind you. Rear Window in 1954, Vertigo 1958, North by Northwest 1959, and of course, who could forget Psycho in 1960. And in 2020, Vertigo replaced Orson Welles' Citizen Kane in 1941 as the British Film Institute's greatest film ever made. By 2016, 7 of his films had been selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry, including his personal favorite, Shadow of a Doubt, in 1943. He received the AFI Life Achievement Award in 1979 and was knighted in December that year, 4 months before he died. Good timing.
Wow. Well, after Hitchcock's death in 1980, Universal Studios began producing follow-ups. 3 sequels, a remake, a made-for-television spin-off, and a prequel television series set in the 2010s. In 1992, the Library of Congress deemed the film culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant and elected it for preservation by the National Film Registry. And that's all, folks. Have a safe time sleeping. You're very kind.
It's all for you. I'm not hungry. Please go ahead. You eat like a bird.
Now, you know, of course.
Not really. I hear that expression that one eats like a bird is really a falsity. I mean, a falsity. Because birds eat a tremendous lot. Oh, I don't know anything about birds. My hobby is stuffing things. Taxidermy? And I guess I'd rather just stuff birds because, well, I hate the look of beasts when they're all stuffed. Foxes and chimps and all. Some people even stuff dogs and cats. But I can't. I think only birds look well stuffed because they're rather passive to begin with. Most of them.
It's a strange hobby. It's curious, I mean.
Uncommon, too.
I imagine so.
Well, it's not as expensive as you'd think. Cheap, really. Needles, thread, sawdust. The chemicals are all that cost anything.
Well, I mean, a man should have a hobby.
It's more than a hobby. Sometimes a hobby is supposed to pass the time, not fill it.
Is your time so empty?
Oh no. I run the office. Tend to cabins and grounds, do little chores for mother. The ones she allows me to be capable of doing.
You go out with friends?
Friends? Who needs friends? A boy's best friend is his mother. You've never had an empty moment your whole life, have you?
Only my share.
Where are you going? You want me to pry?
I'm looking for a private island.
What are you running away from?
Why do you ask that?
No, people will never run away from anything. The rain didn't last very long. You know what I think? I think we're all in our private traps, climbed in them, and none of us can ever climb out. We scratch, claw, but only at the air, only at each other. And for all of it, we never budge an inch.
Sometimes we deliberately step into those traps.
Well, I was born in mine. I don't mind anymore.
No, you should mind it.
Oh, I do. But I say I don't.
If anyone ever spoke to me the way I heard her speak to you, I don't think I could ever laugh again.
Sometimes when she talks that way to me, I'd like to curse her out and leave her forever. Or at least defy her. But I couldn't. She's ill.
She sounded strong.
I mean, ill. She had to raise me all by herself after my dad died.
I was only 5. And it must have been strain. Oh, she didn't have to go out to work or anything. Dad left us with a little something. Anyway, a few years ago, Mother met a man. He talked her into building this motel. We could have talked her into anything when, well, it was just too much for her when she died, too. And the way she died, the way he died. Oh. It's nothing to talk about when you're eating. Anyways, it was too much of a loss for my mother. She had nothing left.
Except you.
A son is a poor substitute for a lover.
Why don't you go away?
To a private island, like you?
No, not like me.
It's too late for me. Besides, who'd look after her? She'd be alone up there. The fire would go out, damp, cold, like a grave. When you love someone, you don't do that to them, even if you hate them. Oh, I don't hate her. I hate what she's become. I hate the illness.
Wouldn't it be better if you put her in someplace?
An institution? A madhouse? People always call a madhouse someplace. Put her in someplace?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean it to sound uncaring or I...
What do you mean about caring? Have you never been in one of those places? Inside, laughing and tears, and cruel eyes studying you. And my mother there? Why? She harmed you? She's as harmless as one of those stuffed birds.
I am sorry, I only felt it seemed she was harming you. I meant...
Well, you meant well. People always mean well. They cluck and tick their thumbs and shake their heads and suggest so very delicately, but... I've suggested it myself, but I hate to even think of such a thing. She needs me. And it isn't as if she were a maniac, a raving thing. It's just that sometimes she goes a little mad. We all go a little mad sometimes. Haven't you?
Yes, and one time can be enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Norman.
Norman.
You're not going to your room already.
I got a long drive back, all the way to Phoenix.
Phoenix?
You see, I got into a little trouble there, and I got into my own private shop, and I want to go back and try to pull myself out of it before it's too late for me to.